Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast host here on the show today. And my guest today is Ricardo Casas, founder and CEO of Fahrenheit Marketing and Trek Notion. I'm so excited to talk to him to get into his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and challenges that he's faced on that journey. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications like this when we have episodes like this. Well, welcome, Ricardo. It's so nice to have you here. How are you?
Thank you, Kay. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm well. I'm well. Recovering from the Thanksgiving break, but doing great.
That's good. Yes, it was fun to chat with you before we got on the call here a little bit and then talk a little bit about marketing. And I'm excited to learn about your businesses. So, share a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your businesses.
So, I'll tell you one day I'm going to write a book. But I grew up in Brazil, South Brazil, in abject poverty, absolute and complete utter poverty. And my journey began in 1996 when I met a family of American missionaries who we became very close friends, and they um, were very interested in learning Portuguese, and I was very interested in learning English. But they told me that as missionaries, they were not able to teach me English because their priority was to learn the language. But they asked me if I'd be interested in coming to the US and live with their family for a season so that I could learn English from them. And so I decided to come. I had been saving, I started working full time at the age of 12, and I had saved every penny I had ever made for times such as this. So I bought a ticket and a one semester of English lessons at the University of Texas. That's all I had. And I came and I stayed with them with the family, and they liked me really well. My brother actually came with me. Very similar story. After a semester of English, my brother went back to Brazil, and I ended up staying. They offered for me to stay. I got a full scholarship from Toyota Motors, which was what I needed to finish my program at UT, and then I later went on to community college, and then finished my bachelor's at Texas State University in San Marcos.
Wow.
Yeah, then I ended up I came over at 19. I got married in 2006 to a beautiful American girl, and with her, I have six beautiful children.
Oh my goodness, how fun.
Yeah, we just celebrated 18 years of marriage yesterday, so super stoked about that.
Oh, congratulations. That is incredible. Well, I loved hearing about your story, especially, being brave and leaving your country to move to a new place and try something new. I think that's really admirable. And so now you have your wife, you have things going for you. How did you start the businesses? How did that come about?
So I have always been very family focused and family oriented, and I once, upon graduation, I did really well. I'm one of those immigrants who didn't have a chance at home, and when they landed in the US, they kind of went crazy, and so I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, and I was like, I'm not going to settle for anything other than the top place. So
Mm,
I worked really, really hard, and I became a director at a marketing agency much larger than Fahrenheit at the time. And that was a very good experience for me, while at the same time incredibly taxing. It
mm,
was very hard on family. I was, and like I said before, 60 to 70 hours a week, incredible demands. I was managing 28 people at the time. My staff was 28, and I had a multi-million dollar budget that was also under my control. But I quickly realized that that was not really the life that I wanted for myself. And then my wife got pregnant with our first. And I was like, no, I need to see my child growing up. I want to be able to see his first steps. And given the rhythm of the work that I have here, is that's just simply not going to work. Another thing that I thought was kind of off-putting in the agency world was the attitude. I think this has sort of faded some, but I'll tell you that in the early 2000s, late 90s, there was a glamour and some kind of aura attached to creatives. And so these people moved around as though the world, owed them a living, and it was 6 months behind in payment. And it wasn't really something I endorsed or believed in. Some of our clients at the time were paying for so much bloat, and oh, such and such client is coming, so they had these, they had champagne, and they had, fancy, foods, and all of that. I was like, this is just so wasteful. The client was paying for all of it. So a
Mhm.
client coming was an excuse for a huge party, right? So everything at the expense of the client, and I thought that was wrong. And there was also a lot of dishonesty in the industry. Agencies oftentimes victimize their clients because they prey on their ignorance. The nature of the work that we do is very technical. There is a lot of data mining and data interpretation, coding standards, things that are just simply not natural for the ordinary person to understand. And I saw a lot of that happening. I saw a lot of dishonesty in the industry,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and I prize my sleep over anything. And so I didn't want to be a part of an environment that was so careless with the client's money and so flippant about budgets. So Fahrenheit was born out of that. I'll tell you that the catalyst was the CEO of the agency that I worked for. This is probably going to come back to bite me. The document got dropped off on my in my office, and it was a very large sum for a marketing blitz for a client. And I reviewed the document, and I went back to the CEO's office and said, "Hey, look, this is it's already been done. It's already been paid for." And the answer was, "I don't pay you to question my agreements. Get back to your office and get cracking." And I
Mhm.
did. I went back to my office and I wrote my resignation letter. I printed it and I went back to his office and I said, "Here's my resignation. I'm done." So, of course, I was speaking to my wife throughout this whole experience. That day, frankly, I didn't get anything done because I was so disturbed by the whole situation. And my wife and I both agreed that I could not compromise my standards for the sake of a job. So I resigned that very day. And then I started Fahrenheit Marketing, and I was pretty well connected. I had connections. People respected my work. They knew who I was. They knew the work that I had done, the brands that I created and led. And so it was a slow start, but it was a solid start. The company started in 2008. We started working primarily with local businesses, providing web design and development and some SEO work. Um, but the word got out quickly, and in 2010, I had already maybe 4 or 5 employees by then. We signed our very first publicly traded account, which is still a client of ours today. So 17 years, actually rather 15 years later, still a client of ours. It's a pharmaceutical company, AOK. And then we leveraged that brand to go after similar engagements. And so today we have PepsiCo, RJ Reynolds. We've designed the Barbara Bush Foundation website. We've designed for Citgo Oil and Gas, Gatorade, and really a host of other, international brands. And so it was a good time to stop, working for that agency and start my own thing, contrary to what most everyone else had told me, because I did this in 2008. And if you remember, 2008 was right in the midst of the housing crisis. There was a
Yeah.
massive collapse.
Mhm.
And to help funding the start of the company, I had a concert grand piano that I sacrificed to help fund the company back in '08. And probably the best investment that I've ever made was to sell that piano, put
Yeah.
the money in the company, and go from there.
Wow. What a journey. Thank you for sharing that. That is incredible. There's so many things I want to dive into, and like especially like you saw a change that needed to happen and you were the change, and that I think is such a huge nugget of just a golden nugget of that story. And so you mentioned your team that you've been building, and I'd love to hear about like your culture of your team. How many team members have you grown to now?
Mhm.
And yeah, let's start there.
So today, there are 23 of us full time, and have we're sort of I guess in the market perceived as a boutique agency because we're small compared to the companies that we're going up against. When we got the PepsiCo account, we unseated Grupo, which is a 1,600 person agency in New York.
Mm,
And such as that, we had several other engagements that where we went up against a much larger outfit. But there's a reason why that is when when we set with PepsiCo and with RJ Reynolds, the competing agencies were leveraging much younger people, a lot younger people, and they lacked experience, they lacked know-how, and they presumed that because they represented a much bigger agency, that they were going to get the contract. Well, that was a very basic mistake because we were running circles. And I'm gonna elaborate more about the staff, but uh, when you with Fahrenheit, you don't work there. I don't have juniors. I can't afford to have juniors in my team because I have created a brand that capitalizes on tenure and know-how. So in order for me to go up against the likes of Grupo, the likes of the Richards Group and T3, I need to have the staff that can stand against the best of their teams. And so the model that we created isn't just um, it's not just another agency, especially in our space. At 20 to 30 people, there's a lot of people, a lot of my peers, people that I know, that are just seeking to get a deal out of their employees so that they can maximize their profits. I found a different model. And the model that I have found is go after the best possible employee, pay
mm.
them what they're worth, and you will be happy that you've done that. And it's true because the average tenure of my clients is between 3 and 7 years, some of which have been with me for 15 years. And in the world of digital marketing, that's a commendable mark. It's a huge achievement.
Mhm.
There's a lot of turnover in this space, and so we created a model that was unique, and frankly to this day it's pretty unique in the space, and especially for the size that we are. If you go to much larger outfits, you will always find senior staff, uh, but here at Fahrenheit, that's all I've got. All I
Mm.
have is the average tenure of my employees is 11 years in their respective fields. That's not something a whole lot of people can brag about.
Wow, that is so cool to hear. That you brought up a really good point about, going for the best and then paying them what they're worth and like creating that model. That I think that's a really unique approach and really something that can be, highlighted because it is working. And I think that's incredible. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Kind of like I leads me right into my next question, which is your like looking at your leadership style. What would you say your leadership style is with your team?
I am I'm the kind of boss that will give you an opportunity to prove yourself. Now, it's easy for me to say that because the people that I'm hiring are people that have been doing this for a long, long time. So they could probably lecture me on their respective fields. I don't know everything there is to be known within the realm of digital marketing because it's a very encompassing discipline. My field here at Fahrenheit is branding. I am a brand guy. I have written for Forbes. You can look up my articles on Forbes. Branding is my sweet spot, and I can go up against just about anybody when it comes to branding. But hiring the best frees me, and it gives me an opportunity to do that which I love, while also trusting them to do what they do the best they can. I am not a micromanager. I like to give people a wide berth, and my strategy has so far paid off. People that feel entitled to the success and the fall, they take ownership, and that's been my experience. They become invested in the success of campaigns. They become invested in the success of the relationship, because they are also responsible for it. I'm not there holding their hand. Frankly, I don't feel like I need to. These are people that have been doing their job for a long time. I I marvel really, and just sitting back and seeing how well they do, and how nicely they have gelled, and how well they work together. Um, Speaking of culture, I mean it's been a massive improvement over my previous engagement with that other agency, because that's one of the things that I wanted to divorce myself from is, first off, no 70-hour weeks. Every one of my employees is required to be there for 40. A minute over 40 is actually not acceptable. You work 40 hours a week, that's really all I can ask of you, and that's really all I'm paying you for. If it's outside of those 40 hours, I want you to be with your family, I want you to be with your friends, I want you to have a life outside of work. Um, a few years ago, we implemented a feedback system. So every Friday, my employees are prompted with a questionnaire, and we change the questions on a weekly basis. Um, and essentially, in this questionnaire, I want them to tell me what worked that week, what didn't work, who has been stellar in the team, who has been an awesome resource and somebody that they have enjoyed working with. And so that has given me so much more visibility into how the company operates. And so they're very frank and they're very open, and they understand they do that because they know that I am watching, I'm reading, and I'm also acting on these things. So, if a designer says, "Hey, I've learned about this tool. I think that it could be really, an amazing opportunity for us to engage with this. We'll look into the license. If it makes sense, we'll buy the license and we're going to give it a try." And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of learning opportunities. There's a lot of discovery that happens through that system. And invariably, what you end up with is a team of people that feel seen and heard and appreciated, and it makes it for an environment where you want to be in. I like the people that I work with, and it's important. I spend 8 hours, really the best 8 hours of my day, I spend at work, and I want to make sure that I spend it with people that I care about. And these people have changed my life.
Mm, that's really powerful too, especially I love that you're focused on like that 40 hours and then spend time with your family and
Absolutely. I insist on it.
yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Um, one thing I want to ask you before we get into our rapid fire questions is what is maybe in the recent years of your business, what is like a recent um challenge or hurdle that you faced as a team and were forced to overcome?
I think that one of the things that we faced, and I'll tell you that this is probably we felt it about 8 years ago, and it's been a slow transition, but it's happening, and that is that large players uh, have always been prejudiced against small agencies, because small agencies, in their way of seeing and perceiving things, spells out instability.
Mhm.
We've been in business for 17, going on to 18 years now. We're not going anywhere. Uh, but the perception is something that is slowly changing.
Okay.
When we signed, our first publicly traded account in 2010, and then we began signing more and more, big accounts. I mean, really, we have several Fortune 50 Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 in our portfolio. Um, I see that this is something that we're slowly overcoming. I have had conversations with large players. I have had meetings with very big brands, and some of those deals fell through because they did not believe that a smaller agency could take on the work that was prior handled by a much larger outfit. As it turns out, we can, and we have proven by managing, the social responsibility for PepsiCo for 4 or 5 years now. RJ Reynolds, 9 years, ALK for 15 years and going. So we have proven time and again that we can do it, and that numbers, apart from experience, is just really not that appealing.
Mm.
So, throwing, 50 juniors into an account, I'll get four of my senior staff on that, and we'll run circles around them.
Wow. Yeah, that's like powerful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And kind of going into our next series of questions, it's our rapid fire questions where you answer very just top of mind, first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. The first question is, what is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Don't skimp on hiring. Hire the best and pay for it. You'll be glad for it.
Definitely. And what is a book or piece of content that you've taken in most recently?
I have read a lot of books in the past. I'll tell you that lately I have not. I've been focusing primarily on a lot of articles. My industry is ever changing, ever moving, and it seems like next week, whatever has been said today is already obsolete.
Mm.
Um, I'd say read on everything. Read on politics, read on economy, read on brand, read on people. Be a generalist. You don't have to be a master of all things, but please be aware of what's going on. Be aware of your surroundings, and have an answer that is relatable, that people can understand. Don't try to sound so smart. Just be relatable.
I love that. And then the third question is, what is the key to success for you?
I have found success in honesty and transparency, really. We have created an incredibly transparent operation. Our clients speak very highly of it. I welcome you to call any one of them. I think that providing clients with transparency and making them part of the conversation when it comes to their marketing, their brand, is essential for success. They want to participate. They want to be a part of it. So keep them in the conversation, and let them be a part of it.
I love that. And our final question for the rapid fire is, if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Uh, in all honesty, cash flow. We have, because we hire well, um, making a profit isn't the easiest thing. So that would probably be something I would change. But when all things are considered, if that's not an option, I would keep it as is.
Well, thank you for that. And before we get to our final question of the day, how can people connect with your business?
They can visit us at FahrenheitMarketing.com, or they can visit us at TrekNotion.com. Uh, Both of these are places where you can get in touch with us. You can also find us in social media. But yeah, happy to have a conversation, whether it be brand or anything else that involves digital marketing. It's our domain.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ricardo, for our final question of the day. What is most inspiring to you today?
I'll tell you what, the most inspiring thing in my life really is my faith in God. I I see the world, turning, and I see things changing. But it's good for me to be reminded that there is a constant, and that constant is something that I rely on. So I would say that that is the thing that holds me, that keeps me together.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your words of wisdom, your business growth over the years and everything else. It's been such a joy to have you on the show.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.